Let's bring in Brad Stevens, the head coach of the Boston Celtics, and he joins me on the show. How are you, Brad?
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Hey, best and worst part of being an NBA coach?
Man, you just throw the hard ones at you.
It's really, I'm actually just like that. I mean, it's like being cross-examined at a trial.
There you go. Oh, well, I think the best part of the nightly challenges that you have and getting a chance to compete with guys and going out there and trying to figure out things and on the fly on the second of back-to-backs or when you have a little bit more time to try to figure out how you're going to prepare to slow some of these guys down, which is easier said than done. And I'd say the toughest part, I don't consider anything to be terrible, so it's hard to say the worst part. But the toughest part is certainly just the travel. I mean, huge kudos to the players for how they take care of themselves and how they're able to perform 82 times a year. And I think we have 3 guys on our roster that played in all 82 games, and that's pretty impressive. And that's tough to do, and you have to have a great amount of diligence to take care of your body to even have a chance to do that.
Difference between how you travel now and how you traveled at Butler?
Well, one of the things that I actually didn't even think of when I took this job, but we have a lot more travel than a lot of people just because of where we're located. So we've obviously when we travel out west, we're not in the middle of the country like I was when I lived in Indianapolis. So the flight time's 2 hours longer. There's really everything obviously in our division is fairly close, but everything else we're traveling for. So that was something that I didn't anticipate or didn't really think of before I took the job. Obviously, the charter flights are a lot bigger. We used to take 30-seat charters at Butler, whereas we take obviously a regular sized plane. And but we really prioritized travel. In fact, when I was at Butler, I think that as we were increasing our resources and increasing the amount that we were putting into men's basketball, one of the things we really tried to do was say, okay, no matter what, our guys are going to travel well so that they can be well rested to play well and so that they can perform in the classroom well, and also we're going to take care of them on the road and stay in nice places and eat well when we're on the road, because all that stuff adds up at the end of the day. So we would order less gear every year to do that better because we thought that was the most important thing. Obviously, when you get to this level, the way that you travel is as quick and painless as possible, but it's still a ton of travel.
He's Brad Stevens, head coach, Boston Celtics, joining me here, Dan Patrick Show. Brad, you knew coming into this job that it was a rebuilding job, but this year, as you see Rajon Rondo go and Jeff Green go, how challenging was it to keep this locker room together as pieces were just being dismantled from it almost in real time?
It's actually, first of all, those guys were really good to me and played well. I thought Rondo started off the year well when he first left. I think we started off 0-4, and I kind of had that uh-oh moment, in right around Christmas time, and then Jeff. Jeff was averaging 17 or 18 a game for us and doing a lot of great things for us, and was one of the guys that we were going to late in games, for the better part of the whole time I was here. So those are obviously really good players who are now playing in the playoffs in the West. I think it wasn't as tough to keep the locker room together because of this. I think guys really liked those guys. They respected those guys. And at the same time, they saw an opportunity for themselves. And we talked about it right from the get-go. Hey, there's good and bad with that because that opportunity is there, but now it's time to perform. And it also requires a great deal more ownership, and you have to put your signature on things now at a little bit darker ink because you've got those guys that have taken a lot of the big shots, played a lot of the big minutes. They're gone. And now you've got to be the guys that do that, and you've got to be the guys that lead and establish an environment of work and add to the culture every day, et cetera, et cetera. And our guys have done a good job of that. It's been, I think the older guys that we have done a great job of setting, leading by example. And our younger guys have really felt empowered to be more than just young guys.
You're part of the rebuilding process. You knew, again, what this was when you came into this job. But as the season progresses, do you almost have to, I don't know, insulate yourself from everything that's going on around you, just sort of block out what Danny Ainge in the front office is trying to do to try to stay focused just on the short-term goals with this team, which is obviously making the playoffs?
This is an easy thing for me, Chris. Stay in the moment and coach your team. It's not easy to do always because you get, obviously when you're changing the roster as much as we did. And hey, I thought we were really moving in the right direction before the All-Star break, and then we added 3 new players after the All-Star break and lost 2. Lost 3, excuse me. So that was another change when things had begun to turn around and roll in the right direction, because we had won 4 out of 5 right before the All-Star break. So, but I think those changes were all, in the big picture, very positive for the organization, and very positive for this young group. And so I'm excited about what we've been able to accomplish. But it's been coach your team and stay in the moment, and that doesn't change when you're good, and that doesn't change when you're building. That's just the way that coaches think.
You get a lot of credit from assistant coaches that I talk to that you play against across the league for fourth quarter execution and out of timeout plays that you develop. And I spoke to Eric Spoelstra recently about this, and he said that he thought when he sees your team play in the fourth quarter, he sees facets and pieces of what 5 or 6 other teams might do, kind of blended together in the fourth quarter. Over the last couple of years, how have you gone about learning how to, I guess, draw up the right plays, how to give these guys the right sets to go into in the fourth quarter to execute?
Well, I think it's just first of all, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And, more times than not, when, you've got limited amount of time and the defense is able to set, they're not going to work, or it's going to be a tougher shot. It's just the way it goes. The other team's locked in too, and the other team's trying to stop you from getting what you want. I appreciate him saying that. They really handled us this year when we played them, and so it's nice of him to say. But we really didn't get into that situation a whole lot against them. But I think the biggest thing, Chris, is I just watch a lot of basketball. I mean, that's my job. When I watch games and all over my house, and I'm actually sitting in my house right now, I've got blank sheets of basketball court diagrams all over the place by every TV and by every coffee table. And I think that, that's what my job is to study. And, I appreciate him saying that, because I think what he was trying to say in a really nice way is I steal from everybody else I'm watching. This is not like brain surgery. Everybody else in this league does such a great job that you can pick up a lot from film. And, I'm just trying to continue to learn, continue to grow because of the 82 games, because of the fact that I've had to expedite my learning curve just being in the league less than 20 months or whatever it is. I've watched more film and more basketball in the last 20 months than I have in my entire life. Maybe as much as I did in my last 6 years as a head coach, just because of the demands of the job and the amount of games that you have. So, you should get a little bit better at those things, and I don't think you should ignore when you watch somebody do something great. I think, to me, that's the recipe for emulating something.
He's Brad Stevens, head coach, Boston Celtics, here, Dan Patrick Show. Before I let you go, Brad, it seems like every time a major college job comes up, somebody writes something about you. When you are asked these questions and read, I don't know if you do read it, but if you see these reports that are out there about your potential interest in a college job, whether it was Indiana or Texas or whatever else might come down the pipe, what's your reaction to it?
I don't put any stock into it because, like you said, very, very rarely does anybody even ask me about it. And I think that's, even when I was at Butler and we went on those runs, obviously with that winning and with those players playing as well as they did, the coach gets a lot of attention, and the thing to talk about after the season is where all these coaches are going. And, I said this in an article earlier this year when I was interviewed by Paul Flannery. I just said, I've left one place once, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And all the people that you work with, and all the roots that you put down, that was my hometown. And I'm really invested in trying to make this the best that it can be. And I'm hopeful that the toughest of times are behind. But hey, this is a hard league, and the difference between finishing 7th and being in the playoffs and not being in the playoffs, or finishing 12th or 13th, is not that much. It's also not that much of a difference between 7th and 4th. But all these teams are capable on a given day, and that's why when your season hits, you've got 5 or 6 months to play well. And we almost dug ourselves too big of a hole. And I'm hopeful that we can continue to grow and get better, but nothing's guaranteed. So my focus is on this task and this task right now.
Seems like being a pro coach is more fun, though, isn't it? I mean, you don't have to worry about recruiting and talking to
You know what?
kids.
I liked recruiting. And the reason I liked recruiting is because we cast a pretty small net. We went after the guys that we thought were best for our program, that would do well in the classroom at Butler and would also really represent us well on the court together at Butler, and obviously really good players. So that part, you get to know guys, and you get to spend time with them. I think one of the things that's a lot more difficult about coaching in the NBA is you've got to coach a guy that you met 20 minutes ago in a game, tomorrow. And I think that's different. You don't know how they tick. They don't know how you do things. When you recruit a kid from the time he's 15 or 16 years old, he shows up on your campus at 18. I think if they should know you pretty well, and they should know what they're getting themselves into. And I think that makes it a lot more challenging when you're coaching in this league to be able to not only get guys integrated into your system on the fly and find out what they do best so that you can tweak your system around them, but also just get to know them. Because that's a big part of it for me. And I think that's a big challenge. But it's fun coaching in the NBA. Hey, it's fun coaching in college. I've said I've enjoyed. I could coach anywhere, and it'd be fun.
Good to visit with you, Brad. You've done a terrific job this year. I've got to see it up close and personal, being in Boston as much as I do. And good luck against Cleveland the first round.
Thanks, Chris.
That's Brad Stevens, head coach, Boston Celtics.